They mentioned that we would be talking about the path forward today, and what I really want to start out to let you know is this is about symbolic masonry at this point. You won't find the Scottish Rite of the Northern Masonic Jurisdiction on there very much at all, because what we're really trying to do is reach out to the blue lodges, the symbolic lodges everywhere. But the first little situation I had as I prepared this was most of our information comes from the United States, and I was really thinking maybe it doesn't really apply on the Canadian side of the border. So I did ask our illustrious brother Bob to give me some numbers, and he did. And here's the reason I wanted those numbers is, why do we need to do this? What the heck's this all about, and why do we do it? And here's what we learned. Incidentally, one of the numbers we really didn't have nailed down, and it was more or less an extrapolation to come up with it. But what you see here is 3 different years, 2000, 2010, and 2017, of your memberships roughly in Canada. In Ontario, you had 64,000 Masons in 2000. 2010, it was 49,000. 2017, it's 38,000. In Canada, 120,000 back in 2000, 91,000 in 2010, and 70,000 in 2017. And of course, for us, Scottish Rite Masons, we're looking at roughly 25,000 in 2000, 17,000 in 2010, 12,000 in 2017. Let me ask you a question. Everyone in this room has been involved in business in some capacity. If you were looking at a financial report or a business report of some kind at something like that, what would your reaction be? Got to do something. Is that a fair statement? Something's not working well. And what is it? And what do we have to do? And I want you to keep that mindset as we go forward, because I really think that's what we have to do. We have to do something. And quite frankly, Brother McLean asked me to come up with an explanation of why we need to do something with the path forward. What we wanted to know, and we hired a firm to do this survey. And very interestingly, we picked a firm that had no Masons on the payroll, because we didn't want our own feelings, our own thoughts to prejudice those numbers. What was it really all about? So what we wanted to know was this: if we positioned ourselves correctly, will people today want to join Freemasonry? What is the state of membership in the Masonic fraternity? And lastly, what options do we have? Kind of explore these very, very quickly. The key learnings. First thing we did learn from the survey was men today are interested in joining Freemasonry if presented with the fundamental ideas of the fraternity. Let me stop path forward for just a second. I had somebody ask me a question a few months ago, and I've been in the lodge now for 53 years. And he said, what do you say to somebody who you just elected to become a Mason? He hasn't had any degree work, and he's your candidate. What do you say to him? And that scared me for just a moment, because I'm thinking, my gosh, are we going to tell him, well, you're going to come over, we're going to do some degree work, and you got to do all this memory work? Boy, that gets you excited, doesn't it? So what are we going to say to him? Don't know. But if presented today, are they interested? Second thing, members want more interaction with our leadership. They want to talk to us. They want to tell us their ideas. They want to tell us their concerns. They want to hear what we're thinking, that kind of thing. They want to be involved with us. More engagements with one another. They really like the fact that we get together, that brotherhood principle where we do things together. For gosh sakes, if you got a brand new fraternity member and you have a dinner, are you going to sit him at the end of the table where no one talks to him? No, they want to be part of a part of us. Let's, one-on-one, brotherhood to brotherhood and heart to heart. That's what they want to hear. And lastly, the ability to dive deeper into the craft. There is that fundamental thing where some of our brethren still want to know what's this all about? How far back do we go? And all of those kind of things. So it's education. Very interesting. We also found that members want modern tools for communicating with members. I got to tell you this story. I heard this 2 days ago. Sovereign Grand Inspector from Maryland, sitting up up there. He told me that he went to one of his valleys because they were having trouble with the ritual. And what are you doing? How are you going to make it more lively? How are you going to present it better? And they said, no problem, we've got that solved. He said, are you telling me that we've got all of our members now who memorized all this stuff? Oh, no. We got it on our cell phones. They can hold it out here and read it. So we want more modern tools. I think the key to that is keep in mind that modern tools are what our younger people now really do. I'm not sure I want to see them reading it on their cell phones, but that's what they want to hear. We've got to be involved with that portion of their life. So what did we try to find out? We surveyed 1,000 men in the United States who were aged 21 to 65, non-Masons, at this point, non-Masons, and they gave us data within the population of the United States. So this might be just a little different here. And the margin of error on our survey was below 3%. Again, this was a very professional, very large outfit who does this with no Masons on board. The awareness and perceptions of Freemasonry. What do our people know about us, our non-Masons? What do they know? 81% of the men surveyed were aware of Freemasonry, but fewer than 30% are aware of its values. And only 25% know that we're a brotherhood. So what do they know? We're a secret society and we're wanting to take over the world and those things that you hear on the radio and TV and all that good stuff. That's what they hear. We've lost control of who we are, but that's what they think. Do Masonic values resonate today, right now, with non-Masons? Our values, do they mean something to non-Masons? I'm just curious. How many of you would say yes to that? Hold up your hand. Okay, curious. In a word, yes, they do. They want to hear that. They want to be a part of that. They didn't know it. They didn't know that's who we were. We did not control what was being said about us. Yes was the answer. We asked 1,000 Masons again if Freemasonry would be of interest to them if we tested these Masonic messages to see which are the most persuasive to today's American male. The first one, Masonic values. Secondly, our fraternity. Selfless giving, our charities. Moral standards, and our history. Are those of interest to you as a non-Mason? Here's what we learned. And for me personally, this is a great slide because for the first time I've ever done this, the pie chart can actually be read. So thank you, Steve. Masonic values. Are they interested in our Masonic values? And you can read that. The answer is 48%. It really improved their perception of who we are. 50% it didn't change. And we've got the inevitable 2% who don't care about nothing up there. And that'll be up there all through this whole presentation. But look at that. 48%, that improved their perception. To know that we are a fraternity. And again, you can read along with that. Would you be interested if you knew that we were a fraternity? 47%, hey, that improved my perception of who you are. There was no change in those who thought about the same. And again, our good old 2%'s up there, so we'll forget those guys. Selfless giving, our charities are helping one another. 45% said it improved their perception of who we were if we did that and if they knew that. So again, very much so. Moral standards, if they knew who we were, and this one's kind of interesting, we are to practice charity and service, and that we strive to achieve higher moral standards in their personal lives. 44% said that improves their opinion of Freemasonry. And our history. Now, how many of, that's the one that we really kind of beat on a little bit. You know, we talk, in our case, we talk about George Washington and Franklin, Ben Franklin and all those guys, but it doesn't seem to really resonate very well with the public. You know, so what? So it only get a 20% improve of their opinion on that one. Now, I'm not sure what your message would be in Canada, but you're probably in the same way. We're proud of our heritage, and rightfully so. But it may not be the things that sell us to the fraternity, to the outsiders. So altogether, what have we got? If we attract them to these concepts of honor, integrity, and fraternity, most don't associate these values with Freemasonry, but if we did do that, here's what you get. 44% said they might really be interested in joining. 13% said, well, maybe. And we got 43% who said, no, not interested. What the heck in the United States now? That 13% and 44% adds up to what? 57%. What would that be? 57 million men could be interested in joining the fraternity. All of them? No way. But we wouldn't have to see that first graph or set of numbers I showed you where everything was downhill. We could reverse that if we had the right message. How do we get the right message? The recommendations that the firm came up with was this: take control of the narrative. That's maybe where we lost it when we got to talking by the movies and all those things about us being secret societies and secret handshakes and blah, 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 blah. That's where we lost it. We need to take control of the narrative about who we are. What is our story? We need to do that. Secondly, recalibrate the messages to align with what resonates most with the men, our real core values. We need to be spreading that message because it does resonate. Masonry is those values are wanted and accepted by men today. Create content that will expose men to key messages when searching Freemasonry and our values exploration. We need to get out there again. Control the narrative. Let's tell them what we have, what's available, and what it means to them. So, what are we going to do? What can we do? Now, the Grand Master is here. And this message is things that we have presented and made that are available to the Grand Lodges, the individual lodges, if they want them. How many of you have already seen this particular screen? Most of you, I'm sure. Not just a man, a Mason. I want you to look over in the extreme lower right-hand corner, and you will see the square and compass with that little emblem again, not just a man, a Mason. That's one of our logos on this whole program. Just keep that in mind. That'll be on all of them. So this is one of the possibilities we could show. When the message, not just a man, a Mason. How could you do anything with that? I'll tell you a little later. How about this one? Being a Mason doesn't make you a better man than anyone else. Just makes you a better you. Does that resonate? Yeah, probably. There's another possibility. Here's a different one. We believe mankind should be exactly that. Should be exactly that, mankind. We're much more about lending a helping hand than a secret handshake. Boy, does this talk about our Almoners Fund and our dyslexia centers and everything else? Yes, it does. It's selfless giving. It's who we are. It's taking care of one another. We do everything we can to be present and still be part of history. So we talk a little bit about our history. There's still some excitement out there. Now, interesting, look at who we're presenting in all these photographs. In this one, you have a very young man with his son. Some of the other screens were middle-aged men, and we'll see a couple of elderly faces in here, too. It takes a big man to believe in something bigger than himself. Blood is thicker than water, but nothing is thicker than brotherhood. And it appears to be that's a man and his son. Again, older man and a son. Becoming a Mason doesn't make you a better man. Oh, wait. Yes, it does. Whatever life throws at you, you have millions of brothers to help you catch it. Now, all of those slides that we've seen so far are, let me just kind of back up and I'll reiterate this again in a moment, are things that you could use if you had an open house. If you had one of those, you could put it in your lodge. You could make an ad out of that and put it in the newspaper. How about somebody actually taking that kind of information and making a billboard that thousands of cars drive by on the highway every day? What would that do? Would that spread the word about Freemasonry? I think it would. It'd make them stop and think about who the Masons were. So there's some ways you can use those. Now we're going to go dark for just a second because we also do a video.
How does a good man become even better? By working out? Or by working his way up the corporate ladder? By changing his diet? Or by changing his style? By traveling the world? Or by staying perfectly still? For 300 years, we've helped good men become the best versions of themselves through a dedicated fraternity and by taking an oath to live a life of integrity, service, and brotherly love. Men who are as committed to each other and their families as they are to our noble cause. In the end, we don't just make men better, we make them Masons. Not just a man, a Mason.
We also make those messages available in these stand-up type devices. If you were having let's suppose you had an open house or you were somewhere where there were a lot of people coming by at a booth, you could have a stand-up sign like that, a digital ad, which we can use those on your websites, those kind of things. All this is flexible. It can be done. Here's the event signage I was mentioning to you, where it's a pop-up, roll-up, where you can pull that up and let it stand there when people walk by. Very nicely done. And if you were in any of our conferences, the Grand Masters, you may have seen some of those. What is available? Now, the Scottish Rite has done this and made it available to lodges. Now, there's just very few things we'll talk about here, but one, we have the portrait. The portrait posters are available. The retractable banners, the things that we showed you that sit on the floor. You could use this on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, any of those kind of posts. The videos, we're having people, I believe Maryland again, made an ad out of that. They wanted to put it out. And they're taking that video and others that we're now developing, that you can use that for a video that shows up on something, TV, maybe before a movie at a movie house as a preview or something like that. Interestingly, we will customize those instructions and trademarks. Now, let me show you what that means. The one sign that showed not just a man, a Mason, with the man's picture on there, up in the left-hand corner, if a lodge wanted that, and wanted to maybe do an ad with that, we will put the lodge's name, address, and phone number on that ad for them at no cost. There's no charge for most of this. Those pop-up banners, yeah, there's a cost for that. But those other ads, by golly, we'll customize for you. The only requirement is there's two. We want all this to go by the Grand Lodge, because in some states, in some provinces, I assume, you can't do any advertising whatsoever. So if the Grand Lodge says it's okay, we do it. If they say you can't do it, then you can't do it. We don't care, but we're not looking to pick a fight. Most materials are at no cost. So again, we're very concerned to get the tide turned from those very first screens that we saw. Can the material be customized? Yes. And I just told you the name of the lodge can be placed. Most of the materials are at no charge, and the Grand Lodge must authorize that. How do you get materials? Real easy. NotJustAman.org. You get on that website, and it'll lead you right through it. And it'll show you all that is available, and you can follow through. So it's very, very simple to do that. And Commander, can I have just another minute or two? I wanted to show one thing of a Canadian. It's not exactly the path forward, but it was my good fortune a year or two ago to have attended both the Supreme Council for Germany and Luxembourg. And typically when we do that, we all stay over a few more days to tour the country. And when we went to Luxembourg, we stayed in Paris. And when you're in Paris, especially from Canada and the United States, I think one of the things you do is you go to Normandy to see the beaches. And we were on a tour, and it was a very good tour, and they took us very quickly, and with not much time, we stopped at Juno Beach. And the Canadian facility there is excellent. They did a nice job. It's got a nice history in there. It's a museum, and you can go in and visit. And when I got out of the tour bus, and I'm walking up to it, and then when I leave the building, I'm looking at something, and I do not know what that is. I can't figure it out. And that's what it was. I didn't know what I was looking at. We don't have that in the United States, and I thought, that's a pile of rocks. Why did they do that? So I walked up to it to see. Obviously, there was something going on there. And as I looked at that, they had a sign in the skunk, if I got that right. And it's a symbol that somebody was there, and in this case, put that sign up to let you know that they were there. And they were part of that landing. And I was really taken by that thing. What an interesting thing. We were here. But it occurred to me, that's not a Masonic thing. This was military. But I thought there's a principle here for us in Path Forward too. You and I are here. What are we going to do? Brethren, it's been my pleasure to have been with you, and thank you, Commander, for the extra time, and bless you all.